Live from the station you count on for local news, this is WTOL News 11 at 6.
As the nation celebrated another birthday this week, we were reminded that much of the country was still a mystery to the founding fathers, even when they declared America's independence. Jerry Anderson's writing about that in his weekly journal tonight, Jerry.
And we're also celebrating a bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition that mapped much of America's Northwest, our Louisiana Purchase from France. It's a journey being revisited by a former teacher and still a student of history, with whom I chatted shortly before he took off on the trail of Lewis and Clark, took off on his bicycle.
On this trip, of course, I'll be thinking about Lewis and Clark and thinking about the struggles that they had. They were, jumping off into the unknown, much like we go into the moon.
If it sounds like Al Thompson knows a lot about Lewis and Clark, he does. He taught it for years in history classes, even reenacts the explorers. He recently set out on a 3,200-mile bike journey from St. Louis to Astoria, Washington, to follow the path of the explorers. They were the first to map the Great Northwest, but they discovered more than just a path to the Pacific.
Lewis and Clark, 177 new plant species that were not known back east, 122 animal species that had never been seen back east.
Distance cycling is nothing new to Al. He's pedaled the Pacific coastline from Seattle to San Diego. He's biked the Rockies, Alaska, Scotland, Ireland. In the mid-'80s, Al Thompson bicycled around the globe and saw the world as few ever will.
You're out in it by yourself, and you're not, you don't have windows to look through, and it's just the fact that you're kind of doing it under your own locomotion, your own power.
The toughest thing about distance cycling?
Mountains and headwinds, I guess, are and when you got the two together, you might as well go sit in your tent.
Al plans to cover 70 to 80 miles a day on a trip that'll take a couple of months to complete. Still, he recalls that it took Lewis and Clark a couple of years, often under brutal circumstances, that many had given the explorers up for dead.
So that when they reappeared in 1806, September 1806, it was a grand celebration for them and for the people who greeted them when they came back.
Al Thompson probably won't get any such celebration, nor does he want one, but he would like us to remember a couple of brave explorers, their entourage, and Indian guides who put a good portion of this country literally on the map. And actually, this is the book that Al Thompson wrote about his solo world bicycle experience back in the 80s. It is One Time Around. And by the way, he's also using this bicycle tour that he's on right now to raise money for the American Cancer Society, the Susan Komen Foundation, and the Alzheimer's Association. He's lost people in his family to those, and so it's very personal to him as well, Chris.
Right, and so we will have a big celebration for him.
I think we ought to.
Back, Jerry. When is he coming back?
I have no idea. He's retired. He can come back whenever he wants.
Okay.
He said it'll probably take a few months, though, but like he said, it took them a few years. Do you know they traveled over 8,000 miles in boats and on foot and on horseback? 8,000 miles in 2.5 years.
Into the unknown,
yeah.
And at least Al knows where he's going.
Yeah.
He carries a lot of gear, though, on that bike.
Well, yeah, you have to, because he carries a little bit of food, but he does his food on a daily basis. There's a small tent he carries there, and one change of clothes. He doesn't want to weight himself down too much, so he's doing laundry, when he needs to on a regular basis on the road.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry. We wish him lots of luck. It's a magnificent journey that he's taking, and Al continues to email us from the road. This week, he hit the 700-mile mark and reminded us that on July 4th, 1805, the expedition's second Independence Day, on their great journey, a great catastrophe struck. They ran out of whiskey.